You want to take the size that will get you tiny bit of excitement, but not too much. Because
Yeah.
once you risk in too much, once you put in too much size, in most cases, when it will go against you, you won't be able to process it on a psychological aspect of it. And then you will start doing this nonsense that we all do or did,
Yeah.
revenge trading and
Yeah.
everything else.
Trading is a numbers game. That's how I look at it. You're gonna have times when you're on a losing streak. You're gonna have times when you're on a winning streak. You're gonna have times when it's choppy. You can't always, assume that everything is always gonna work in your favor. So I just try to work on the loss side. The loss side, I believe, and I was trained that the loss side is my job. The market will give you the wins, but you gotta work on your loss side.
Welcome everybody to another funded trader of Trade the Pool. Today, Elvin is with me, a new funded trader trading with $100,000 of buying power. Thanks for coming, Elvin.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, for sure. So we just had a talk. You're from New York, and you've been trading with us for a while now. How long?
I think with Trade the Pool, I've been trading for about a year. I did a couple of accounts before,
Yeah.
and then this last one was the Flex. When I saw the Flex, become available, I was like, that's a program that is for me.
Yeah, because you did trade, as you said, you've been with us from a year ago. So you traded actually the previous accounts or the previous programs that we offered, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And what did you like about the Flex comparing to the previous one?
So with the Flex, I felt calm. I felt that I didn't have to rush to take trades.
Hmm.
I think one of my biggest problems with my trading is just jumping from strategy to strategy. With the Flex, I just said I'm just going to stick with one strategy. If it takes me a whole year to hit $6,000, fine, so be it. You know what I mean? I still consider myself relatively new. So just having that consistency and not having to push to, try to load up on trades or try to take somebody else's trade, that just worked for me.
Yeah, I totally get it. And I get this feedback a lot of the times. For those of you not familiar, the listeners, so basically before having the Flex and the Max, or the Flex is unlimited time to pass the evaluation, we had 45 days. You had that time period of 45 days to pass the evaluation. And that was super challenging. Some traders, of course, did it, but we at Trade the Pool, we always looking for, just to listen to the street, to listen to you guys. And once you realize, and we check the data and we realized that we can extend that. So we definitely went through with that. So I'm glad that you did it. Definitely coming back and doing the Flex. I'm going to share my screen in a second and show the guys at home your dashboard. But before that, let's talk a little bit about your trading. How long you been doing that?
I've been trading, I would say I've been trading seriously for about 7 years.
Okay.
Growing up in New York City, I heard, maybe your story, but I used to, pass through Manhattan and you would see the floor traders.
Yeah.
And then when the news comes on, you see the financial segment. And as a kid, I would always see them and they're yelling at each other. And, at the end of that, they were making money. Like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a part of that.
I can yell and make money. Let me
Yeah.
do that. So 7 years. So you've been in it for a while now. But you mentioned, you just said you feel like very fresh, still very young in that.
Yeah. I would say a lot of the 7 years I spent just doing, foolishness.
Hmm.
Even getting educated, everybody's selling education, but not everything is, worthwhile.
Yeah.
So, some things that I could use from certain trainers, I was able to, implement into my own strategy. But I feel like lately I've been just getting to a level of consistency that I
Yeah.
didn't have before. And I think a lot of that just had to do with jumping from strategy to strategy to different strategy and not just staying on one strategy and letting, the different market cycles help me understand who I am as a trader.
Right. And I know that I'm biased, but would you say that trade the pool really helped you to take your trading to the next step?
I would say that just like this video that we're doing here, I listen to some of what the other traders are doing. I listen to the lives at times, sometimes in the morning, and those different things such as starting small. Don't try to load up, in the beginning, and
Yeah,
then as you build up a little bit of a pad, then you can start risking more. I started following that, and I think that changed how I approach the challenges.
that's amazing to hear. I love that. Yeah. So, what do you like to trade? What do you do?
I like the large caps, the Nvidias, the Teslas. My strategy, I want those stocks that are over $100. I want them gapping up, and I want them breaking out over their pre-market highs. So that's what I like to look for. It works for me. It matches my personality. I want to be in something that's moving. I don't want to sit there and wait for, structure or wait for patterns to develop. I just want to be in it and just let it go really quickly. And when it's time to get out and move on with the rest of my day.
Amazing. So, but you mentioned you want to find momentum and volatility, right?
hmm
So you're going for the big caps. Have you ever tried small cap trading as well?
I have. It hasn't worked out that well for me.
Interesting.
So yeah, I find that with the big caps, the moves are a little bit more predictable for me. They're
Okay.
easier to spot. And when they move, one, two, three, $4 consistently when they do go.
Yeah.
So for me, it's easier for me to stomach that than to
Yeah.
sit through some of the volatility of the small caps.
So it's funny that you mentioned that because just the other day I had another interview with one of our funded traders, Tony, and he mentioned roughly the same as you saying right now. Tesla could easily do $10, $15 a day, right?
Yep.
So if you're looking for $1, $2, it's as he says, it's much easier for him to catch that tiny move out of the entire day
hmm
comparing to a stock that is usually do a $1 or $2
Yeah.
ATR.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
super interesting. I'm going to share my screen and show the guys at home your dashboard. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, for those of you not familiar, every trader gets his own dashboard. The dashboard will show you your stats, the risk parameters, and you can really understand your progress and look at your equity curve. You can also check your achievements and payouts and customize your view, switch between light mode and dark mode. So, Evelyn traded the Flex on with NK, basically on with $1,000 of buying power. What do you say about that? Comparing to your broker account, compared to what you traded for the last 7 years, is it enough capital to trade with?
Yeah, I think that that's the right amount of capital, to trade with, for especially trading large caps. You know, I don't want to load up in the beginning. I don't want to trade with 1,000 shares. I can't stomach that at the moment. But
Mm,
even though I can't stomach that, a lot of my wins are like $500, $600, and I think that that's reasonable for where I am. And those wins usually comes when I'm only taking like 100 shares or 200 shares.
yeah.
So when it does go against me, I can stomach it. I'm not sitting on, like when I tried trading the small caps, I would take like 1,000 shares, but then when it went against me, I'm heartbroken.
I get it. Just the other day, I listened to a YouTube that talks about position size, right? And the important part of it, of course, is as you just mentioned, you want to take the size that will get you tiny bit of excitement, but not too much.
Yeah,
Because once you're risking too much, once you put in too much size, in most cases, when it will go against you, you won't be able to process it on a psychological aspect of it. And then you will start doing this nonsense that we all do or did,
yeah,
revenge trading and
yep,
everything else.
yep.
Alrighty, so you had a 6% target. You did it very nicely, max loss. a daily pause. How do you feel about the daily pause? Did you reach it?
This time, no.
Okay.
I don't think I got there. I usually had my trading pauses just on my own down to like $200 a day. So,
Okay.
I don't like to go past that. Even with this flex account, I try to keep my daily pauses at 400.
Okay. Interesting.
Right. So once I've lost around $400, I shut it down and I'm done.
Wow. First of all, congrats on being, to enough stubborn to actually stop yourself from blowing the day. Very nice. Yeah. That's I'm looking at your curve here, your P&L curve, and it's choppy. I
Hmm.
can say it's choppy. I mean, you did nicely at first, and then a pullback, a strong pullback, almost to the break-even point, and
Yeah.
then you had a good run at the end.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, the pullback that got you almost to the
Yeah,
break-even.
that pullback actually taught me a lot. I started even creating some rules because that was really a losing streak that lasted pretty much the whole month of August.
Yeah.
Anything that I touched in August was just it wasn't going,
Mm.
but I
Yeah.
was able to implement, something that I had seen another trader do, which I now have as a part, which is when I get to one, cutting my risk in half.
Okay.
I think prior to I would try to move it to break even, but that was too tight. But
Mm.
just cutting it in half was enough to, if something did go, let it go. And then also create a rule around the streak where if I had two or more consecutive losing days, I'd begin reducing my size down to 300, down to 200, down to 100. And then if it was 4 days in a row of losing, the fifth day I would just not trade. I would just go do something else and then come back again and then only risk $100 until I started getting, a couple of wins, start seeing a couple of wins, and then I'd start sizing up.
I gotta focus on what you just mentioned here because it's super important. I mean, what you mentioned was your level of discipline is super high and also super rare. I gotta say, right?
Hmm.
It's not easy to stick to those rules. Are you doing something outside of trading to support that, or how do you reach the point when you tell to yourself, okay, I see that I'm having a bad day or a few days, I'm gonna decrease my size. I'm gonna increase it afterward. Because it's easy to say it, but you're
Hmm.
actually doing it. So do you have anything that supports that around trading or how does
Well, I do journal,
okay.
and when I journal, I'll journal those moments. In my prior 7 years, if you were to take a look at my journal, you would see when I would take a big loss, it threw me. And the rest of the days where I would trade after that big loss, I would just end up giving away more money. And so I never wanted to put myself in such a big hole that later on, when I do start getting a win streak, I'm digging myself out of a hole. So I try as much as possible to try and minimize losses, come up with rules to, just keep streaks because, trading is a numbers game. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
And you're going to have times when you're on a losing streak. You're going to have times when you're on a winning streak. You're going to have times when it's choppy, so you can't always, assume that everything is always going to work in your favor. So I just try to work on the loss side. The loss side, I believe, and I was trained that the loss side is my job. The market will give you the wins, but you got to work on your loss side.
100%. I'm scrolling down a bit and looking at your stats here.
Hmm.
So you had 68 trades, long, short, a bit more long than short.
Hmm.
Also interesting to see. These days, I see a whole lot of short sellers comparing to buyers. So that's nice to see a change. 30% on your success rate with a 1 to 4 on the risk reward, which is huge.
Yeah.
And I guess I see the bounce from in your P&L. So that probably got affected by the
Right.
risk reward got affected by the last two trades.
Right.
And you on your radar with almost $3,000 of profit. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go over it a little bit. I'm gonna increase that. Okay, you're
Mm-hmm.
trading, yeah, food, Tesla, Google, AMD. I think we need to focus on MU here, right? The CRWV and MU.
Mm-hmm.
What happened there?
The market, you know, but I want to look at those losing trades. Those losing trades were tiny,
Right.
right? I know that with a 4-to-1 ratio, I need to be at around 30% with my
Hmm.
win ratio. So those losing trades have to stay small.
Yeah.
And then on a stock like MU, once it starts breaking out on a gap, it usually will go.
Yeah.
But even if it didn't go, those losses are not going to go more than 400, roughly $400.
That's
So
incredible. Yeah, I'm looking at the losing trades, and your max is like 500 ish, just with a change.
mhm,
You keep it super tight. It's amazing to see. I've been watching tons of, literally thousands of accounts of all of our traders funded evaluation every single day, and a lot of them will go, up and down, and the down will be stronger sometimes than the upside, right?
yeah.
But you keep it very tight, and it's amazing to see. So what got you, is that something that you did all the time, like risk reward, higher risk reward but success rate lower, or is it change over time?
Once I honed in on this strategy, I just took what I would do with my prior training. The trainings that I would take, I would really focus on the loss side. So, for example, my entry is under the formation that got me into play. I know some people like to put it under a prior pivot or a former structure. I just move it right there. As soon as it starts going in my direction, if I get 1-to-1, I tracked my trades and I noticed that I would get a lot of 1-to-1s, but
Okay.
then half the time they would fail and half the time they would go. So I said, let me split the baby and just say if I get 1-to-1, cut it in half. So if I'm risking 400, cut it in half, and if it goes 1-to-1, I'm now risking 200 now. But I really try to focus on really keeping the loss side because I really don't like digging out of a hole. I detest it.
Yeah.
I really do. So I don't want to put up a $3,000 loss and then spend the next month trying to climb out of a $3,000 loss. I would rather just shut it down at some point, walk away. But with 7 years of, I would say, learning, you kind of, I feel that, you kind of get to that point where you're like, you know what, I don't want my losses to just keep on, being so huge that I don't make any progress. So I really don't like big losses.
Amazing. That's definitely, there are two types, right? The one that you just mentioned, success rate is lower, but the risk reward is higher.
Hmm.
Or someday that I've been on both sides, going for a higher success rate, lower risk reward.
Hmm.
Either way is good, but like you mentioned at the beginning, one of your first sentence was, I tested the strategy according to my personality, right? So I definitely get that.
Yeah.
Amazing, Elvin. It was a great talk. I'm sure the guys that listening right now really enjoyed it. Any tip for a new trader that joined Trade the Pool?
Yeah. Start small, focus on your losses. You know, I spent a lot of time scouring the internet and just looking for different ways to mitigate my losses. And a lot of those strategies, such as cutting it in half, working on minimizing your winning streaks, those are ideas that I got from, searching YouTube. And I'm sure there's a whole lot more strategies out there. So I would recommend focus on, minimizing those losses.
That's a great tip. Alrighty. So for those of you guys who want to check us out, go to tradethepool.com. Maybe you will become the next funded trader. Thanks so much, Elvin, for coming, and good luck.
Thanks.